Does your basement look something like this? If you're finishing your basement now or plan to, then you're going to have to make decisions about the kind of finished flooring that you're going to put down. Now, technically, you can put down just about any finished flooring you want in your basement, but I'm here to warn you that some of those choices cause problems. So this video is all about my favorite and recommended 3 finished flooring options for basements. They offer unique advantages, and I want to explain them now so you can make a more informed choice. The first option I want to talk about is carpeting. It's actually not my personal favorite. I don't like carpeting anywhere in a house, upstairs or in the basement, but it is very popular with people, and so that's why I want to mention it up front. It's popular because you get a soft surface and it's a little bit warmer too. So all of those things are great, but you need to understand something. And it has to do with a dynamic that often sets in that's difficult to understand ahead of time, but really damaging when it does finally set in. So what you need before carpet goes down is some sort of a basement subfloor. Now, here you've got some basement subfloor panels. This is the Drycore brand. They're widely available, excellent quality. They work really well. But this is what you need to properly put down any sort of a carpet in your basement. And the reason is because of something that's hard to pick out ahead of time. Now, this is a cross section. Here you can see the carpet, and then here is some underpad, and this is a cross section of a concrete floor. This is the way a lot of carpet goes down on basements, and it causes problems. So imagine for a moment it's summertime and there's warm, humid air in the basement. It is going to make its way through the carpet and the underpad. Neither of those materials have what it takes to stop the movement of air through them. So if the air is in the basement, it's going to get through carpet and underpad, and it's going to come in contact with the cool concrete floor. Now, when that happens, there's a very good chance that the air will cool down to the point where condensation occurs within the carpet underpad. It won't be enough that you can tell that it's wet. It's not going to be squishy underfoot or anything like that, but it doesn't take very much moisture to trigger mold and mildew growth, and that's often what happens. In fact, this dynamic is the leading cause of musty basement smells. But this is also where a basement subfloor comes in handy. Now, here we have a similar cross-section, except there's a basement subfloor panel in place. And that's what you see here. This is the top surface that you would see. This particular panel has a layer of foam on it. There are really 2 different kinds. One has a dimpled plastic layer underneath that creates a little airspace, and then this creates an insulated layer. Now, the other kind is insulative too. This is a little more insulative. But in both cases, what we have is a blockage. So a blockage of the warm, moist air from touching the concrete. So if it tries to get in, it's going to get through the carpet and the underpad. Eventually, it's going to make it through this oriented strand board that's here, but it's not going to make it through the foam. So the warm, moist air stops here at this spot, and that means it never gets cool enough to condense because it never comes in contact with the concrete floor. So sounds simple, but a basement subfloor makes all the difference in an application like this, as well as the next flooring option, which happens to be my favorite for basements. Now, this flooring is luxury vinyl plank, and I like it a lot. It is, I think, one of the very best for basements. First of all, as you can see, it delivers an authentic wood grain look. It looks terrific. Because luxury vinyl plank and its cousin, luxury vinyl tile, are inorganic, then they're not going to warp or crack or promote the growth of any kind of nasty stuff that you don't want growing in your house. So very good for that. It's also extremely tough. It's much, much tougher than a hardwood floor. You'd have to have a difficult time damaging this stuff. So it stands up really, really well. There's another advantage, and it's harder to understand, but it's really quite huge, and that's that this stuff is flexible, which is a great advantage for basements. So this is a piece of luxury vinyl plank, and look at how easily that bends. What that means is that unlike other similar flooring, like laminate, for instance, this can follow small undulations in the floor. So whereas laminate flooring is good and tough for basements, and it's kind of inorganic as well, but it's rigid. The pieces are rigid, so the floor needs to be very flat. And it can be quite a pain to flatten a basement floor, concrete basement floor. They're often not poured with extreme precision. So the laminate option can be a real pain, but the luxury vinyl plank is going to work really well for you. It's just going to follow any undulations that are there. Doesn't have to be fastened down either. This is a floating floor that clicks together. So that's another advantage over real hardwood. It's tougher. It's better suited to the basement conditions. It doesn't need to be fastened, and it floats and conforms to any unusual shapes in the floor. So great stuff, but it does need to be installed over a subfloor again for similar reasons to what we saw with the carpeting, and also increasing comfort. So here's some basement subfloor panels going down. This is the kind that has the dimpled bottom layer, so there's an actual airspace there, and the plastic stops the downward movement of warm, moist air, so it blocks that condensation as well as providing more comfort, and even a little bit of drainage capabilities should you get a little bit of moisture underneath there. Now here you can see the same subfloor panels. You can see that they're raised a bit off the ground. Now, sometimes if the basement floor, the concrete is not flat enough, it will cause these tiles to wobble. So the dry core system comes with shims that work really well, and you can put in 1 or 2 or 3 or more in a low spot to bring it up and stop it from wobbling and just make it more solid. My third recommended finished basement floor option is ceramic tiles, but I need to explain a few things. What you're seeing here now is a cross-section of a system called Ditra Heat. It's offered by a German tile accessory company called Schluter. They do by far the best job in the world that I've ever seen for electric in-floor heating underneath ceramic tiles. If you want a really toasty basement floor, insulation is going to get you part way there, but it's not going to get you all the way there. If you want to actually walk around in your bare feet and enjoy the warmth, you're going to need something like this. And what you've got here this is the tiles. This is the thin set mortar that actually glues the tile to this membrane here. This is the Ditra Heat membrane. It's an uncoupling membrane which allows a small amount of side-to-side movement of the tiles themselves relative to the subfloor, and that can go a long way to preventing cracks. Now, the Ditra system can be used on its own without heating cables, but what you see here are electric heating cables. They come on a spool when you buy the system, and you can snap them into the uncoupling membrane grid that you see here. This is a wonderful feature because it lets you customize the installation of heating cables for your application, which is something no other system provides to the same extent as this. So you don't have to put your in-floor heating under places that'll have appliances or a shower stall, or wherever you don't need heat, you don't need to install heat. Now, Schluter does offer an option with the Ditra Heat here. It has a little bit of a sort of a fuzzy fabric insulative backing on it, and it does provide some insulation. But when you're installing this over top of a basement floor with that great big concrete slab underneath, I strongly recommend that you do more as far as insulation goes, and that's what this stuff is here. This is called Kurdi board. It's also made by Schluter, And it's an amazing substance. It's foam. It's a rigid foam sheet, but it's dense enough that you can put this on the floor, on your concrete floor, and then you can put tiles and your Dietrich heat system right on top of it. It's dense enough that it's still going to support the tiles even when you walk on this thing. So that, and it also offers a lot of insulative properties. So you're going to direct all of that in-floor heating upwards where you want it, and you're not going to lose any significant amount downwards, down into the concrete slab. Now you can see here that there's a fabric on here. There's the same thing underneath. That fabric, it's bonded to the foam, and it's specially made to bond to thin set mortar. So the same thing that is used to secure tiles, that's what you'd use to secure this foam to the floor, the concrete floor, and it's also what you'd use to secure the Dietrich heat membrane, and then in turn the tiles that go on top. You can see it's got a grid pattern here, so it's kind of easy to lay things out and keep things aligned. It just works really well. If you want the ultimate in warm basement floors, then some sort of electric heating is going to be the thing, and you will definitely need insulation for that. So that's where I recommend this. Now, just to finish up, this is kind of a typical scene of a basement being finished. You got to have something against the concrete. In most cases, that's the subfloor panels I was talking about. If you want heat, then you might want to go with some sort of special foam product. But bottom line is that concrete's got to be covered in some way before that finished flooring goes down.